Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by our friends at Bearded Iris, here to talk about Texas A&M's loss to Penn State. Blake, we feared this was a bad matchup for the Aggies, and man, that is exactly how it turned out.
Yeah, I told you guys I was gonna hedge my bets on this one and try to pull A&M to the Sweet 16 or beyond, but yeah, that didn't happen. I mean, everything we said we figured about this game for Texas A&M happened. Like it was everything we said that. If you're wondering why this is such a terrible matchup, it played out in exact form. Um, Penn State hit 13 threes. They shot 59% from three, 13 of 22. Andrew Funk goes 8 of 10 from three, which is what we said. They had multiple guys who could just go off at any time and make multiple threes. And Funk just has a ridiculous game. We said Penn State's not going to turn the ball over a lot to allow Texas A&M to get easy points. They only had 8 turnovers. We said Penn State's not going to foul a lot to give A&M a chance to get to the free throw line. They only had 11 fouls for the game. I'd venture to guess there's no other team that Texas A&M has played this season that only had 11 fouls for the entire game. I'd venture to guess that's a good bet. So A&M only shot 12 free throws. Now, A&M made 10 threes. That's great, but they were in the position where they were playing catch up. And I've said, this was a team you're playing catch up against a team that is so good from three, and that is the driving force of their offense. But if you're A&M, your specialty is ones and twos, and I mean this was all about the start, and I think you could tell from the start once Penn State started hitting threes. I never had the confidence in A&M to be able to make a comeback because that's just not what this game was built to be for A&M. If they were going to win this game, they needed to sort of be in control from the beginning and make this a grinded out type game where Penn State's taking, tough shots and A&M's not having to chase. And well, they had to chase because they were down by as many as 25, 26 in the second half. And yeah, I mean, they were never after the first little stretch, maybe, I don't know. It just felt like they never had a chance. So
Yeah, I'm going to take a quick sidebar to, again, rail against what the committee did. And I know it's just win what's in front of you. That's not fair. Not everybody should be held to the standard where you get seated a couple of spots lower than you should have been, or to the standard where you play a 10 that should have been an 8. And that's why these things matter. And here we are, I think, again, A&M with the different draw. We're probably talking about the Aggies going a little further if they'd played Boise State or someone like that. But it's not what happened. I don't know what to say next. I mean, everybody that saw the game saw it. It almost looked like a mismatch, although I think that's probably unfair to Texas A&M. But I don't know. The question longer term maybe is this sustainable for Buzz Williams? I think it is. I think he's a great coach. They get Wade Taylor back next year, presumably. But boy, they lose Dexter Dennis, Tyrese Radford, Julius Marble's a junior, Henry Coleman III's a junior. So a lot of guys who could potentially come back for A&M and certainly make this team a top half of the SEC team again.
Yeah, we got time to get into that with transfer portal and all that stuff. I don't dare venture into this guy's going to be back or this guy. You just don't know. So I mean, look, it was a big season because they won 25 games, and once again, I mean, I think that after the way they started 6-5 to get to this point, it's a successful season. It's a very disappointing finish. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like, it's not just losing; it's getting blown out in your NCAA tournament game as the higher seed. And I want to make this very clear too, because I've already seen this on Twitter, but it's Twitter. Just because A&M got blown out does not mean they were not underseeded. Or what is the word I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. just because they got blown out doesn't mean, and I've already seen a lot of people say, well, looks like they should have been a 7 seed. That's not how this works. Just because you lose your first game doesn't mean that the seeding was what it should have been. Um, they should not have been a 7 seed. We made it very clear. Losing, getting blown out by Penn State doesn't change that because, again, Penn State's not your traditional 10 seed. So the fact is, you can't use that as the explanation for A&M, seeding wise to justify that they should have been. Like you said, Chris, they should have never been a 7 seed, but they were, and they got beat by what was the worst matchup we thought perhaps on the board for A&M. He said this is probably, if you looked around at all the teams that could have been in that range, which of course for us we were projecting A&M as a 5, maybe a 6 at worst. We were looking at all the teams you were projecting against, and as soon as we saw that, we said, "Oh, this is the worst matchup of all those teams in that area." On the board, this was the worst one for a team like A&M, and it just so happened that Penn State did everything they were good at. Teams don't always do everything they're great at in a single game, but like Penn State pretty much did everything that the stats did not lie for Penn State in this game. Like we just talked about, run through those several categories we did. They meet, they met the billing on all of those, right? Like they lived up to the statistics for this one game, and that was never going to be a recipe for success for A&M because they just did not. They were not put, you know, together in a way that was going to be able to sort of counter what this Penn State team could do at its best. And we saw Penn State at its best. And yeah, just an unfortunate finish of the season for A&M. And like you said, I think it's, we'll look ahead with them in the offseason, but yeah, it's disappointing, man. There's no other way to put it because we said 2 weeks ago we thought this team could be Sweet 16 and beyond good, and just got stuck in the wrong draw for the Aggies. So
Michael Shrewsbury's going to get his name tossed around for a lot of jobs, isn't he?
well, I mean, he's already been mentioned for Georgetown. Who else? Notre Dame. Oh yeah. I mean, that's why I said they had the press conference or whatever, and he was asked, "Are you going to be the Penn State coach next year?" Which, by the way, that's another thing that always irks me. It's an NCAA tournament first round game press conference, and that's what we. And I get it, I understand. Like you're trying to get scoops and all that, but I don't know. He said, "Look, I don't know." He was at least honest about it, right? So because he's going to get a lot of money thrown at him, especially if they keep on this run, which, we're not going to do a Penn State versus Texas preview, but I'm telling you right now, if Penn State plays the way they did against A&M, they got a good shot to beat Texas. So, yeah, he's going to get some money thrown his way, and who knows if he returns to Penn State, but what a job he's done down the stretch with that team. So, yeah, they've been really, really good since basically Valentine's Day. And man, I mean, it's just, honestly, Chris, you could have put a lot of SEC teams in that same spot A&M was in last night, and they'd have got beat. I mean, in all honesty, most teams in the SEC would have got beat last night against that Penn State team.
Yeah, I mean, you could have easily given A&M, I don't know, swapped A&M and Northwestern, given A&M Boise State. A&M marches on, I think, at this point. But
you could have spotted A&M 10 points in this game, and they probably still would have got beat. It's just like, I think just given the nature of how both teams play and the strengths, again, I think if Penn State was going to be at its strongest and A&M was going to be at its strongest, I still felt like it was going to be tough for A&M. It would have been a lot closer game, but because A&M was not at its best. But I felt like just with what the strengths were of each team and what each team needed to do to have things break their way, it felt like A&M had more challenges to get the game played the way they wanted it to play than Penn State did. Just because, yeah, I mean, Penn State does. We said, right, they have that combination of things that if you're looking for a Cinderella, if you're looking for a dark horse Final Four type team, you can point all the things, say, well, they don't rebound well, they don't do this, that, yeah, but they don't beat themselves. They can knock down threes unlike anybody in the tournament. They don't foul, all those things that puts pressure on you as a team. And man, they put so much pressure on A&M in this game, and that was just not a recipe for success for them having to play from behind. They just couldn't stop them. And there were times. Look, we would talk about A&M defensively, right? How good they've been this season, but they just didn't. There were guys just getting open and knocking down shots, and A&M just could not rotate well enough to find. I mean, look, let's talk about it. I mean, Funk was basically the guy at 8 threes, but all those other guys too. I mean, Pickett had a good game. He had 19 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, didn't have a single turnover, which
He
again
was a beast.
But it's like, think about that, right? Plays 40 minutes, didn't have a single turnover, not one.
I
against
love the
Texas
way they
A&M.
use him, man. They did some old school just back your man down stuff with him that you
Yeah.
don't see very often.
No, I mean it was pretty remarkable. Yeah. So
I'm coming down with a cold, but Blake at Southeastern 14, do we rest in March?
no, we don't. We do not. And by the way, let me just check something real quick before we wrap up. I know we're gonna wrap this thing up, but let me check something quickly because I may have had a number wrong here. This is showing me. I think this number's wrong. Chris, tell me if you're seeing the same thing. I'm seeing Penn State with 5 turnovers, but it's listing it as 8. Either way, it was pretty impressive.
Ken Pomeroy.
I've checked both of them, and I'm not seeing that.
Ken Pomeroy has 8.
Yes, but look down at the look add them up though. Like, do you see what I mean? Like,
okay, here's the problem. They have 3 turnovers charged to the team.
Okay. I just want to make sure. All right, so 3 teams. Okay, that makes sense then. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
So essentially, right, is less than that. Okay, yeah. So all right. Anyways, yes, we have a lot of stuff coming to Southeastern 14. I just want to make sure I didn't, give that team too many turnovers there. But yes, we have a lot of stuff coming. We've had a reaction video for every game for SEC teams in the first round. Been a good first round so far. Still got Kentucky to play on Friday here. So we've got game reaction to all the other SEC teams that won on Thursday. Chris, 5. Right, 5 teams won. Right, it's 5 in one day for the SEC.
We have a busy weekend here. We got SEC baseball starting, which I'm trying to keep an eye on a little bit. But
yeah,
I'm priority
leaving
right
that to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what a fine start for the SEC. We'll see if Kentucky can keep it going, but so be sure to hit that subscribe button, check it out. We'll have a lot of videos previewing the second round games that will take place on Saturday, and again, if Kentucky advances, they will play on Sunday. So yeah, hit that subscribe button.
Thank you for watching us at Southeastern 14. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. We'll see you again soon with more previews and recaps of SEC hoops.